Today we're going to look more at Flexbox. And I encourage you, because now that I'm using HDMI, this is a little bit small. So I encourage you just to like roll up, like you're sitting around the campfire. Like bring your chair, just come up close, right? And that way you can see everything, because that really makes a difference for me at least. You know, like let me get engaged and get closer to the fire. You get closer, you're more engaged. It's less easy to space out. You know, like let me get up there where I could see it, and when I don't understand something, let me ask. Let me get more engaged and be right there. So that could be something too for people who are sitting further in the back and not quite grabbing all this. Might come up a little closer. So we're going to finish out Flexbox, and then I want to give you something to work on over spring break. So maybe we'll just start playing around building something here in a second. But one of the first things I want to do, this is where we left off, Holy Grail of Flexbox. But this is like, and you know, like I spend all my time HTML, CSS, and Go. That's where I spend all my time right now. So this is like, you know, I was up at 6 a.m. at Starbucks, or 5:15, and then I was at Starbucks at 6. Code until 9. And then, you know, 9:20 had a appointment with this guy, what do they call it, physical therapist, and you know, and then coding again until 12:30, and then lunch with my family, and then back here after lunch, code. Yeah, so this is what I was doing today. One of the things I was doing is, here's a HTML page, Holy Grail of layout, whatever, right? And some responsiveness there, so you can see the break. Okay. And then break again. So how's Flexbox doing that? Cool, you know. Let's hear it.
Well, actually, I just had a random thought as I was listening to it and realized something. Are you ever going to take roll again?
Oh, that's a good idea. At the end of class, I should do that.
It was a random thought that just popped.
That's a very good random thought. So here's the here's just the styles, and I like breaking up, you know, right now at the level we're learning at. Let me just put all the things that kind of make things color pretty. You know, that's just the styles. So I put all that, and I have a link to styles right there. And so that first brings in styles, and the order in which you bring in CSS is important. So it's bringing in the CSS, and then it's, you know, applying those rule sets, those CSS rule sets. Like even at the beginning of the semester, I wasn't nailing rule sets. Okay, now I got that. Rule sets have a selector and a declaration block. The declaration block has declarations. Declarations are made up of properties and values. I couldn't say that fluently at the beginning of the semester. So I'm just learning this myself, but spend time with it. Oh, I own that now. Right now I own it. I know it. Rule set, selector, declaration block, declarations, properties, values, got it, right? But at the beginning of the semester has more tags, elements, what do I call them? Tags are elements being used, right? Oh, I'm more clear on that now too. I'm just giving a little bit of Rocky Balboa. So that's the styles. And then we have 2 breakpoints. So I look at that, it's like, okay, I can see how that's just styling the colors and adding a little bit of padding. Well, what's the layout doing? Flex flow, row wrap, okay, and that's the wrapper container. So all of the immediate children, the header, the article, the side, the footer, those are all flex items right here. That's what happens when you make a container class wrapper, and that dot wrapper specifies in the CSS we're targeting this class wrapper, right? But that says that when you make it a flex box, then all of those first items are flex items. Well, then I have a wrapper and then a greater than star. What the hell does that mean? How many people, this is called the truth will save you, do not know what dot wrapper greater than star means? Because that's just some cryptic, like hieroglyphic Rosetta Stone stuff if you've never taken a moment to look at the Rosetta Stone and understand what it means, right?
My thought is it's a greater than a wild card.
So how many people, truth will save you, raise your hand, do not know what wrapper greater than star means? Cool. So there's an entire thing that you could go Google. And part of my job is just to give you the resources. MDN CSS Selectors. Or better yet, I'm not going to do MDN. Well, yeah, I will. MDN CSS Selector. So when we talk about what this stuff is over here, these are rule sets. Rule sets are made up of a selector and a declaration block. Declaration blocks have declarations. One declaration, another declaration. Declarations are made up of properties and values. I kind of droned that, so I'm sure it just went right through. One ear out the other. When you drone stuff, that happens sometimes. Like, But you could say, okay, I want to know what different selectors are. That's the selector part, right? And so if I just Google MDN CSS selectors, here's some selectors, right? Attribute selectors. Let's just look at this one first. Information selectors, class selectors, ID selectors, attribute selectors. That's kind of difficult to read. In this case, I actually like, so you have to Google around sometimes. I like the reference from W3 Schools, which is a ripoff. They're not associated with the W3. They just called their website that, but whatever. Some of their stuff's good. And here, I like this. So here it tells me when you have like a div and then a greater than sign and then some other. So here's a selector, greater than sign, selector. This is an element selector. We could have a selector which is like a class, right? So the class selector, we're selecting the wrapper class and it's got a dot. So that chooses the wrapper class and that's the wrapper class. You want me to, what do they call it when you wrap? I don't know. Never mind. I lost the joke. It was there for a second. That's the wrapper class. I could also have IDs, which would start with a pound sign over here, right? And so if this was like a pound right there, that means I'm selecting an ID over in my HTML. And that's how I'd select an ID. So that's selecting a class. And so here I could have an ID selector, I could have a class selector, I could have an element selector. So here I could also just select body. So maybe I'd just say, hey, body. And I'm selecting an element, so it's applying it to the element. All right, this is stuff we learn about this. So here I have an element greater than another element. Selects all P elements where the parent is a div element. So the direct parent is a div. If I have a div and inside that div I have a paragraph, that gets selected. But if inside that paragraph, or if inside that div I have like I have an article and then inside that article I have a paragraph. So if this was the layout, if this was my code and my selector was div P, that means all direct children. So this is a direct child. Right under the div is a P. Now you might say, hey, that's inside the div, but it's not a direct child. So we can verify that. Div, direct children, width, well, let's make them background color red. And then let's make let's give this whole div width 100 pixels, height 100 pixels, border 4 pixels solid black. And then inside we have a paragraph and we have an article. Let's make this 700. And so with our paragraph, we might make our paragraph with height pixels and then we might make our article. So these are element selectors. And cool. And in our paragraph, we'll do the font color white. Kind of wacky. Article should be maybe 300. Let's make it blue. Oh, that was the wrong one. Black. Article green. So you can see it selected that immediate direct child, right? It selected that immediate direct child, but it didn't select this one. Because this says my immediate direct children. If I took this out, div p, any p inside a div anywhere, I don't care how deeply nested it is. And so you could come over to this CSS Selector deal and you could start looking at these. Here we got an ID selector. Here's that wildcard, select everything. Here we have an element selector. Well, there's the class. Here's the class selector, right? So this would be in the CSS. You put that as selector, dot some name, and then in your HTML, you would have div class, and that one is intro. You wouldn't have the dot there. You just have intro. And then your CSS is dot intro. That means it's a class. And then in your HTML, or you also have an ID selector. So you could do pound first name. So my CSS, I have pound first name. In my HTML, I would have ID. And you could only have one for the entire HTML page. You could have one ID with that name. You could have many IDs, but each ID must be unique. This is the wildcard selector. Here's an element selector. Here's multiple. You could have multiple selectors separated by commas. So select the divs and select the p's and apply this to all divs and p's. Select all p's inside a div. Select all p's that are direct children of a div. Select all p's placed immediately after div elements. That's interesting. All right, so let's do this. So if we have the greater than, first and second are both direct children, they get selected. If I change this to plus, whoa, what happened? Div p, I always thought it was sibling selector, so that was kind of, so if we have a div and a p, here we go. Sibling selector. What if we have two? See, I wasn't even totally sure on that one. Like, what? Got that one wrong. Didn't nail it right out of the gate because I'm still learning it. Sibling selector and the first sibling, not the next sibling. So it gets kind of intricate and selects every UL element that are preceded by a P element. UL preceded by P. So let's do div preceded by P. Div preceded by P. So div preceded by P. P preceded by every UL preceded by a div. You read them right to left. So every div, every paragraph preceded by div, every div preceded by p, precede. So here, every div preceded by p. So will we need a p here? I'm not even sure what's going to happen. Every div preceded by a p. Did the whole div. Read it, every div preceded by p. The way I had it before, every p that is a sibling of the div. So the div is right in front, came right before the, and then the one before, every p that is a direct child of a div. So you read it right to left. I don't know why they came up with it that way, but that's the way you do it. So don't get like too hung up on those selectors. You can select attributes. So if your HTML has an attribute, like anchor href target blank, I don't know. Oh, look. I would select that one. Anything that has the attribute target equals underscore blank. You'd select all the elements with that attribute. You can say select every anchor element whose href attribute begins with HTTPS. Whoa. So some of this stuff is helpful and some of it, but it's good to be exposed to. Selects the active link, a colon. These are called pseudo classes. This is called a pseudo element when you have two of them. But you could also write pseudo elements with just one colon. All right, so those are selectors. And we got onto selectors because we were looking at this. Class wrapper greater than star. So any element that's a direct child of wrapper. Well, here's wrapper. So this is a direct child. That's a direct child. That's a direct child. That's a direct child. That's a direct child. This is not a direct child. So this is saying select header, article, aside, and footer. In which case, I think it'd just be better to write right? And that's also going to be more performant because star is going to look at each element and go all the way up the DOM to the end and say, are you a child of class wrapper? So it's going to have to follow every element to the top of the DOM for every element. And that's going to take time for your computer to do that. But if it's just header, it's like, okay, just anything that's a header, I'll apply this. But this is somebody else's code, so I wanted to kind of leave it somewhat the way it was and then refactor it just to kind of show you a few changes. Flex basis 100%. So that's at mobile. Flex basis 100%. So if basis is the original width, we have flex grow, flex shrink, flex basis. That's the original width. So it's setting everything to a width of 100% at mobile. Makes sense. And it's row wrap. So everything takes up a whole row, pushes everything off its row because it's taken up 100%. And the next thing takes up 100%, pushes everything off its row because it's taken up 100%. And just each element does that. So they're all wrapping and they're all taken up 100%. Nice. So that's that one right there. And then at 600, we go flex 1 auto. And then we go flex 3 0. And we change some order. So flex 1 auto does that. That's 600. How did flex 1 auto change this to that? Like, that's a really good question. Like, what does flex 1 auto do? So everybody on your computer type in mdn flex box and find out what, if you set two properties to flex, what are those two properties applying to? What are they applied to? Because flex is a shorthand. You can set one value, two values, or three values. So when you set two values and it's one auto, are we setting flex grow and flex shrink? Are we setting flex grow and flex basis? Are we setting flex shrink and flex basis? What are we setting? And if you don't set one of them, does it get a default? So look that up on MDN. You should have done MDN flex box. Using flexbox or flex CSS. So I'd open both of these. And then scroll down, and here are some settings. Flex none is 0, 0 auto. One value, unitless number, is flex grow. One value, width and height, is flex basis. Right? So these would be setting flex basis. Two values, flex grow, flex basis. And that has a measurement on it, so it becomes flex basis. Two values, no measurement, becomes flex grow, flex shrink. Three values, flex grow, flex shrink, flex basis. Looks like the default 0, 0 auto. So it looks like here, if I'm setting one auto, auto's basis, and if I got two numbers, it looks like the first number is flex grow. And so I have one flex grow 1, flex shrink 0, flex basis auto. So I could experiment with that. Flex grow 1, flex shrink 0, flex basis auto. Is that actually what that shorthand gave me? And in my code, what did I mess up?
It's not the class selector.
Huh?
It's not the class selector beside.
Oh, thank you. Rant. Okay, so I think that's what that says. That's what you got to do. And like, I spent an hour trying to understand how the hell is that working today. The difference between me and you is I'm already getting paid for it. Bummer. Get your master's. We'll try to get you hired. And let me close all that. Okay, so refresh. And I should have there to there to there. So it's still the same stuff. And I could check those. And there, there, there. Same stuff. And I could say, okay, same stuff. What happens if I make that 1? Nothing. So I guess the person here is just like micro-conservative, and they didn't want, which to me would be a little bit more clear if you are going to use the shorthand. I think that's one of the shortcomings of Flexbox is it lets you do one value, and it could be grow or basis. It lets you do two values. It could be grow or shrink or grow and basis. It lets you do three values. You know what? Just do all three values and put our digit in there so I know what the hell's going on. Right? So why when I set on a side, which are these two elements, when I set 1, 1 auto on a side, why does it go from this, they're each 100%, to that? Like, why are they now sharing a line? The hell? Why are they now sharing a line? Why? What about it? I know that this is what gets set. I know that gets set and makes them share a line. But what is it about that takes them each from, they had flex basis 100% applied to them. Everything got that. But then it went from there to there. Like, why did flex grow 1, flex shrink 1, flex basis auto Make those two aside, split it up on one line. That's the question I ask myself, like, how is it working? Like 100%, I understand 100%. Take up 100%. Huh?
The element itself didn't take 100%, so they just took whatever reserved spot when they hit that beat of greater than 600.
Okay, so this is what eventually I came up with. Div times 6, or whatever. And we got style, so I'll do this. Div width and height. No width and height. Oops. Hmm. 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 Gave each of them a height. Okay, now I could see. And I didn't give them a width. Oh, that's right. It's block level. Takes up a whole row. As much space as it can, and a new one starts on a new line. Block level element. Display block, right? That's its default. Cool. So that's the nature of a block level element, like a div. And then let's say on the body, the body's the container holding all those divs. And then as we know, that's going to set flex, direction, row, and flex, wrap, no wrap. That's just the default, right? And I could have set that with right? Isn't that the shorthand? I don't have total certainty. I cleared my cache and like all my visited links and everything got taken away. I miss it. I needed it to be flex flow, not flex. Flex is this one. I need flex flow. So there's the shorthand. Now, what's going to happen when I refresh this page? I added in this container which made all those guys flex items. What's going to happen to the page? Why?
Because they're not supposed to have any wrap. They don't have a width. So there's nothing set directly with it. And because you changed it to display flex, they no longer have their block.
Yep. So it's flex direction. I made that container flex box container. All those divs became flex items. That flex box container said take all those flex items and line them up in a row. They're no longer on one line. So that's why those two others lined up on one line. They're no longer taking up a whole line block level element. They are row. You put it into a row. And they don't have any width. So there's just like some principles, right? That as you start to get them, oh, you can start. So let's go back and take a look at that one. Index, layout. So we say flex 1, 1 auto. So those two asides used to have a flex basis of 100%. And when they had a flex basis of 100%, they're all row, but they're wrap. So they take up 100%, and then they kick everything off their line. It goes, everything else goes to the next line, takes up 100%. Next one takes up 100%, kicks the remaining ones off its line. They just keep wrapping, taking up 100%. That was right here, right? And the side 1, I said 2, right here, have a flex basis. Their size, that's how you set their size. Their initial size should be 100%. That's right there. But then we hit the media query. Flex basis got overwritten for a side. What did their flex basis become for a side 1 and a side 2? Auto. What's auto looking at? When you set it to auto, it goes to its whatever width you've set for it. We haven't set a width for it. So what is its natural width? If it's just like a div, it's just going to wrap around its content, right? So if we told it not to grow, don't grow, wraps around tightly around its content. We tell that little son of a gun to grow. So we overwrote flex basis 100%. It goes back to auto. There is no width set on it, so it's just basically like I'm just going to wrap around my content. But then we said grow, and so it filled in, and since it's in a row, it took up, the space, split the space with the other one. They each grew 1, right? So proportional to each other. And it couldn't have the footer on their line because the footer wants 100%. So the footer's like, I got to take my own line. Couldn't fit up here on this one because that wanted 100%. I got to take my own line. So they're like, we're stuck here in the middle. Stuck in the middle again. Okay, let's split it up. You take half, I'll take half. We're each going to take half because we each have 1 for flex grow. We could have set individual classes on them, or individual IDs on each of them, and set 1 to flex grow 1 and the other one to flex grow 2, then one would grow twice as much as the other, take up 2/3, the other one would take up 1/3. And then this last one, what's flex 3.0 do? So look at your documentation in MDN and tell me what the flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis is for flex 3.0. So flex 3.0, if I look at the MDN flex box, and wrong one. So I have 3.0, it's 2 values, and I don't have a measurement. So 2 values, flex grow, flex shrink. I'm thinking flex grow, flex shrink. I don't know, and that's being applied to main. Right? So my speculation is flex grow, 3, flex shrink, 0.
Flex container now contains 4 items.
I'm thinking flex grow and flex shrink, and that's for over 800. So let's look at it and see what happens. That's the original one. Here we are over 800. And then when I take off the original one and put on flex grow and flex shrink, okay, so it wasn't flex grow and flex shrink. Well, then what is flex basis? 0? Let me take this off. Make flex basis 0. Ooh, interesting. So if I apply that to main is this with the paragraph, all that text right there. I applied that to main. I said basically flex grow 3. So that means it's going to grow 3 times. This has flex grow 3 for main, and the 2 things on sides are flex grow 1. Those are each of those sides. So main's going to grow 3 times as much as each aside, and the proportions will be main will take up 3/5, each aside will take up 1/5. And header is still 100%, so it takes up a whole line. Footer is still 100%, so it takes up a whole line. But those two guys are going to use flex grow 1, 3, 1 to divvy up the space between them because their flex basis, his flex basis got set to 0. Main's got set to 0. Well, that's not all that much different than flex basis getting set to auto in the previous one. What happens if we set flex basis here to auto? Right, the previous one just kind of zeroed out flex basis by setting it to auto for the two sides. Let's set the main one to auto. Well, main. Is main ever given a width somewhere? Let me just look at the styles sheet. Nothing there. No just background. Nothing about main. Main text line background, but nothing giving it a width. Some padding on body. Maybe that's pushing us over the edge or something weird. But that's weird. Flex basis auto on main does that. Well, what would happen if we did flex shrink 1? Nothing. But when flex basis is 0, don't take up any space, and then grow does that. What happens if we have flex basis auto, take out the shrink, and I'm just going to take this down to one word. Maybe all that content's throwing me off. Whoa. So before, when I had auto and all those words, new line. Take out those words, same line. What? Just decided there's enough content here, we're getting our own line. Interesting. What happens if this is at 0 and I have all that content in there? Doesn't get its own line. Auto's doing some things automatically, figuring out width. So 0, what happens if I set this guy to 0? This is interesting, a little bit of shift. But those still, I think I like the idea of not using auto. That was kind of trippy. The content changed where my stuff was located, but I'd use 0 maybe on it instead. So this was this guy's code, and I was like, how did he get it all to work? And I went on this quest to understand it. Because originally it was like this. Kind of cryptic to me. So I started doing all that. You guys didn't know I could type this fast, did you? And I kind of like the idea of 0 on this. And if I put flex shrink on there, so I also like the idea of if you're using shorthand notation, use all 3. So you could then say flex grow, flex shrink, flex basis, and it's totally specific. So why finally, aside's got an order, main's got an order, aside 2's got an order, footer's got an order, right? There's the HTML. So we're just looking at the bottom CSS there. So why doesn't header have an order? It's the order of the HTML. Header just comes in, says we're putting that in, header, and then, oh, everything gets reordered under header. So you don't have to specify it because we didn't need to change its order. It's the order of the HTML. So that's like a good chunk. What can we do to help you simulate that? Jumping jacks? Push-ups? Watch a YouTube video about something stupid? Some cats with balloons stuck to their backs from Static Electricity? You guys want to see one of my favorite cat videos? Probably qualifies for cruelty to animals.
Maybe.
Or it's just catching nature and it's... Or do you want to do an exercise?
Okay.